Hello there, and welcome back to the Dominion server. This is episode 12, and why has it started raining when I start recording? It's typical, isn't it? Typical Dominion weather. So, in the previous episode, we were working on quite a lot actually to do with the island itself, such as this stream right here, and also expanding on the cliff up here and some of the path as well. So in this episode, I want to actually build some kind of house or structure in this area, which is not exactly the biggest, but there should be enough room for something here. And so we can see if we can get that built, and then maybe do some terraforming with some custom trees as well. I think that would look quite nice and make this area pretty much finished, and then we can concentrate on that part of the island. So I have an idea of what to put here. Some kind of Viking themed building. So essentially a little footpath coming up here, and then there'll be some kind of raised stone foundation, just because this area isn't particularly flat. So I think having some kind of raised stone foundation would make it look a bit better. And then some kind of timber frame, dark oak is what I'm thinking. And then a couple of stories and a nice big fancy Viking-style roof. It will somehow have to fit into this area here. So if I mark out the area where I think it should go and start building the base of the foundations, we'll have a better idea of just exactly kind of the shape and size of the structure. This is what I meant by some kind of raised foundation. So what I've done is just the base part of the building I might change this floor, but for now spruce is fine. And essentially this will be the outer walls, and then I've left these kind of pillars, so this is where the dark oak's going to go and actually form the outer timber frame of the house. So it's not the biggest, but hopefully the next floor will be slightly bigger than the ground floor, because I'm able to have it stick out slightly more. And there'll certainly be enough vertical space. So the next stage is to actually get some wood. I'll use stripped dark oak and start to actually create this timber frame, and then see if I can have a slightly more detailed and better transition between the wood and the wooden walls and the wooden frame and the actual brick foundations. Maybe using some kind of dark oak trim. Here is kind of a spruce wall, and then I'll have a window in a minute. So for the walls, I'm going to try and use spruce, mixture of spruce planks and spruce logs, stripped, and then stripped dark oak for the pillars and the frame. And then for this transition, I'm thinking of something like oak trim here, so I could use some stone brick stairs where the chiseled stone is, like so, and then with those stairs sticking out, it's a good opportunity to put some lighting as well, like so. Yeah. I have quite a lot of wood, but I seem to have run out of dark oak. So I'm going to have to go and buy some more, or go for a tree chopping session. Well, that's a shame. I try the pharmacy, they should have some logs, I'd imagine. What? Oh, wait. No dark oak. What? Why? Well, I tried to look in the shopping district, but unfortunately most people that actually would sell logs are just out of stock for dark oak for some reason. So I'm gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Would you look what I've just found? Busy with the old deforestation, and I've just realised there's a lush cave down here, which is actually quite useful, because if there's any of those, oh wow, if there's any of those small drip leaves, I'll be taking some of those, which there are actually. I'm totally getting sidetracked here, but this is a pretty awesome place right now. Okay, so I've mostly finished the front part of this house, and I've actually put in an outline of the roof as well. So it's a very kind of triangular shaped roof with very steep sides, which is kind of, I associate that with Viking buildings. I've added a little bit of detailing. I may add some more, especially around this top section, but I'll do that once I've actually got a full finished building. And see, I've also added this quite big window near the top. I must admit, I really am loving how there's almost like a gradient starting with the stone. I like how that's been broken up with the dark oak trim. And then what I've gone with is, for this sort of ground floor, we've got spruce, stripped spruce, logs and planks. And then I've changed it, it's a subtle change, but I've changed it to oak. And I feel that feels better with the height. There's a little bit of a gradient there. I tried it before with just spruce all the way, and it didn't quite look as good as it could have with oak, so that's why I've changed it. And then of course we have all the timber frame following all the way up. I've done some random detailing near the top with the dark oak, just to make it look more interesting and less boring. And I must admit, I am loving how this is turning out. So the next thing I need to do is the other side of this house, and then figure out the roof. And once that's in, I think this will look pretty awesome. Wow, this is definitely turning out better than I was expecting. I've added some detailing with those chains and fences and a little bit of dark oak trim above the windows, but I will add some more at the end once I've finished the rest of the build, because I still think it needs just a little bit more. But the next thing I want to work on is filling in this roof. So I've got an outline now in this, again, dark oak trim, and I wasn't sure exactly what to do in the middle, but I wanted something which would add some colour because it's very brown. Apart from the stone at the bottom, which again is grey, the whole building is made of wood, so very brown, grey. I wanted something which would make this stand out a bit more and look quite interesting. So I'm thinking of using warped planks and warped stairs, because that has a really nice splash of colour, and it actually ties in with the cyan theme which I've used for this island. There's a couple of other areas where this kind of colour pops up, like for example with the sails on the ship down here, and with the actual flag which I decided to choose for this island as well. That's a cyan background, so I think it would tie in quite nicely with these colours here. And I am kind of interested in using a few other blocks related to these warped blocks here, such as this warped nylon, because, so see, if I put a block here, I can then actually use these warped roots on top, and that looks like the roof is slightly overgrown, which looks really interesting, and I think kind of fits the theme as well. I've got some more blocks as well. I just don't want to use planks for everything, so we have warped stems which I can strip and incorporate somewhere, like here for example. Then I can strip that, and then there is also this warped block which I can put here and there as well, such as here, rather than a staircase. kind of breaks things up a bit. Otherwise it will just look like a massive set of stairs on the roof, and it won't look as good in my opinion. With the main build finished, I'm just going back around to these walls and just adding a few little more details here and there, such as adding a few chains, and then some fences, and then some lanterns like so. A, so I can light up the build a bit more, and B, just because it kind of breaks up any boring areas or gaps in the wall which would otherwise look a bit odd, especially with the amount of detail elsewhere. I'm also thinking of adding some blackstone buttons, which kind of look a bit like nails. I could add them to the end of the sticking out parts of the timber frame, and because some of these timber frames are sticking out, that also gives me an opportunity to have something hanging down. I've got these grindstones here because they look pretty cool, almost like a little wheel. And so if I like have a chain attached to that grindstone, I can then put a lantern underneath. Looks quite different, quite unique. So here we have it, the finished exterior of the house, and I really like this this kind of design I've used for the end of the roof. I've also extended this trim by adding a couple of slabs and stairs here, and just to add a bit more detail and make it, I think it would look too flat otherwise with just the dark oak stripped log. So I've also done that on the top as well, just an extra little bit of detail to add a bit more depth. And yeah, so the last thing I think we need, which is why I've left this hole here, is a little chimney. Now I think this will look better in deep slate than normal stone bricks, just because the stone bricks look a bit too light in my opinion, and they may actually kind of clash with the colour of the roof a bit too much. You can see if this works at all. So how tall do we want it? 1 block tall, I'd say. And then we just have a campfire on top for the smoke effect, and then we can just cover that up with some dark oak trapdoors. Yeah, something simple but effective. With the build pretty much finished now on the outside, the inside is very bare. I still haven't fully decided what to do with this build yet. I have been thinking about maybe a library or something. There is enough room, so we've got the second floor here, and then there's kind of a little overhanging section which I could just about squeeze in for the top floor. So smaller section up here, but with the big windows overlooking out with some pretty decent views over the surrounding landscape. Yeah, I need to come up with some kind of design and interior for this section. It's just kind of the bare bones at the moment. But what I do want to do is work on the outside, because I want to try and get the vegetation and other detailings done so that I can basically say this area of the island is completely finished. So there's the vegetation done up here. I want to try and extend this further up, maybe do a few custom trees. And I was also thinking with this flat area here, a possibility of making some kind of really rudimentary kennel or some area where I can keep my dogs, because at the moment they just sat down at the bottom of the hill. Basically, it would just be like almost like a tent. Obviously, really limited space, but I just think it would be a nice little detail to put here, just because there is a little bit of space. Otherwise, it would just be this vegetation the whole way up. So if I just push this slightly back a little bit, just so there's a tad bit more room. Oh, try not to fall down there because that looks pretty scary. And then, yeah, this should. Yeah, I can probably keep that vegetation here. And then I've got a couple of barrels. So I'm thinking something on the diagonal would be quite cool as well. So if I have a barrel here, log, log, barrel, log, go and strip these. Something like this, and then could have some fence posts coming up on the ends. And then I could get some wool. Probably cyan wool, again keeping with that theme. Match the roof as well. And have some kind of rudimentary tent awning on this top section. This may be a complete disaster, I'm just kind of experimenting here. How are you doing, Lola? And Arthur? And then round the other side we have Blue and Odin. So, if we stand back, what do you think of this? It's quite rudimentary, but that was what I was aiming for. Got a little bit of cyan wool as a kind of tent on top, as a bit of shelter for the dogs. And then got a couple of cobblestone walls and fences here and there, and some campfires because I really love the texture. Looks like a pile of like wood or logs. So yeah, just a little something here which kind of acts as my kennel dog sitting area. And the colour, the cyan of the wool, obviously complements the house as well with the colour of the roof. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this actually. It's something small, but it adds a bit more detail to this area of the hillside. So what I want to do now is I've finished kind of landscaping this area, putting some vegetation down, basically just spamming a load of birch leaves and azalea bushes. There's just this back section here which is still quite boring, which I want to put more foliage here, and then maybe one or two smallish spruce trees, maybe leaning out over the cliffside a little bit, just to fill this space up here because it's quite bare. And then around the other side again, there's this little bit here to fill up. I'm not going to touch this bit because this is where the actual mountain's going to go, so I don't want to start adding anything here because I'll probably have to move it anyway. So it's mainly just this side and the back bit of the house. So yeah, let's see if I can come up with something for that. Okay, so I've added a little bit of vegetation around the other side of this house, and I've added two trees as well. These are vanilla trees, except I've kind of extended the trunk a little bit more so they're taller. So just added these two here, just to kind of add a bit of trees next to the house, make it look a bit forested, especially as this island is looking quite bare. And so I've also added a couple more trees just in general, but I'll get to that bit in a second. So I've also added the usual azaleas, birch leaves, that kind of thing, just to make it look less plain. And I've done that around this side as well. And then I've left this bit for now blank because this is where the mountain's going to go. So as I was saying, I've added some more trees around, only a couple, but just because this, especially this top area, is looking very deforested at the moment. So we've got a new tree, which again is a vanilla tree, which I've just put in here. So essentially what I do is I stack up maybe 2 blocks of dirt, put a sapling in, bone meal it, and then I replaced those dirt blocks with spruce logs just to make these spruce trees taller, because they are quite short, the vanilla versions, and I do like having these quite tall spruce trees. I will be doing some custom trees as well, so there's a nice mixture between that really tall custom trees and the smaller, easy to do vanilla trees. But yeah, I've added one here, and then I have added one further down this path as well. Whee! Just here as well. Random stair at the bottom, because why not? Just makes it look a bit different. So there's one here, and then that will complement the ones which I had put down here previously at the base of the cliff. Now I also want to work on adding a few more custom trees around these bits here. So in between episodes, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace one or two of these trees here and one or two over where the docks are with some lusher, bigger looking, more wild custom trees. I think we've done quite a lot of work this episode actually, and it's really starting to come along, this island now. I am very happy with how this is turning out. So yeah, in between episodes I'll be focusing on custom trees and probably doing a bit more landscaping off camera, because there is a lot more landscaping to do and it is quite boring, so it's something I just need to keep working on. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it or subscribing to this channel, and I will see you in the next episode. So until then, bye bye.